Sense America with Eden O'Neill. Yeah.
And good morning. It is Friday, December the 9th. This is Common Sense America. I am Eden Hill, and thank you so much for joining us this very powerful week that we have had here at Common Sense America. I've just been so blown away by the audience participation. The audience has spoken, and I am grateful to all the women and men who are following Common Sense America, who tune in, whether it's on YouTube, whether it is here on the StreamYard link, via Twitter, via LinkedIn, via Facebook, or also later on Rumble and my work site, edengordonmedia.com. I'm grateful to each and every one of you. Our audience has doubled this week from last week. And so I am grateful that our kitchen table topics that we bring to you each and every morning, Monday through Friday at 9 a.m., are resonating with you, the audience. I'll tell you what. I looked at the back end analytics this morning. It popped up and it said New York City is still #1 in watching the show, which I'm so excited about. I love the fact that my homeland, one of my homelands, is so engaged with Common Sense America. I'm grateful to the Blue Network, grateful to 98.7 The Coast, Money Talk with Melanie, grateful to our urban story, BB Reed and Barbara from Harlem. I'm grateful to Kirsten Fedewa and her powerful work that she's doing for our nation's veterans as she does a holiday tribute next Wednesday, December the 14th at the Capitol Hill Club, something you don't want to miss. I am grateful to Special Operations Association of America for joining us yesterday. And also, I am very grateful to the Mozart Group, who will be joining our show just in about a few minutes. They are doing powerful humanitarian work on the ground in the Ukraine. And I'm grateful to our precious neighbors who just moved here months ago and who have become dear friends of my husband and I. And for them introducing us to the Mozart Group and the amazing work, the amazing humanitarian work that they are doing. I also want to send out a note to the Bowery Mission. And today is my dear friend James Macklin's birthday. Happy birthday to James Macklin, who has been the spokesperson for more than 30 years at the Bowery Mission and who is all about lifting those up. I'm grateful for his friendship. I'm grateful for all that I learned during my time in New York serving at the Bowery Mission. And I'm grateful to you, the audience, who are supporting amazing organizations in this season of giving back. And even though it's the Christmas and the holiday season, and we talk about giving back in this time period, we can't forget what is ahead. We can't forget every other aspect of every other month during the year where so many different organizations are out there and instilling the best faith-based education, like Futures in Education, who will be joining us on Monday, like the American Humane, who train service dogs for our veterans and for our military. So we have a lot of giving thanks during this holiday season. We have a lot to be grateful for. And I'm grateful to you, the audience, who have been so supportive in this 4th month of this podcast here at Common Sense America. And I tell you what, get ready. Get your coffee or your juice or your tea ready. Next week, we have a jam-packed full schedule of amazing guests, new faces you have not seen to Common Sense America join the show. And so I am very grateful and very honored to have such powerful topics come to our kitchen tables day in and day out as we face so many things in our America's backyard and our American communities. On that note, I am honored on this beautiful Friday, very cool morning here in Eastern North Carolina to bring to this show Erik Kramer.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Good morning, sir. Welcome to Common Sense America.
Thank you. Good morning to you as well.
Oh, thank you. And where are you coming from? Are you in South Carolina?
Yes, I'm in Mount Pleasant, South Carolina, just across the bridge from Charleston.
Oh, okay. Beautiful, beautiful. First and foremost, thank you so much for your service. I was looking at your background, and for all of those who are tuning in, let me just give you a little bit of background about Erik Kramer. He is the director of training for the Mozart Group. He has had over 33 years of military and government service and 4 years in the private sector. He retired in 2014 after 26 years of commissioned and enlisted service as an Army Special Forces Lieutenant Colonel. He has served in Afghanistan, Bosnia, Congo, Iraq, and Kosovo. And one thing that really stood out to me, and then we will talk about the Mozart Group, that you were the executive director of the Special Operations Survivors, which provided long-term support to U.S. Special Operations Forces for the Gold Star spouses. Erik, thank you for doing that. That is so powerful.
You're welcome. Yeah, it felt like it was continuation of service. Once a lot of military personnel retire, special operations personnel, there's a little bit of, okay, you still want to stay attached to the community, you still want to give back. And so I saw it as a continuation of service of taking care of, our most precious assets, or, our Gold Star spouses. So it was extremely rewarding 2+ years.
Mm-hmm. So first and foremost, I've been studying the Mozart Group. I've been watching so much of what they are doing on the ground game in Ukraine. Can you share with my audience, from the kitchen table perspective, we have moms, we have female leaders, American presidents, we have so many different types of people watching this show. Can you explain to us what the Mozart Group is?
Yes, of course. Well, so the Mozart Group was started at the very beginning of the war in February of this year by Andy Milburn. He's a retired Marine colonel who commanded Marine Special Operations Command Regiment. He was in Ukraine as a reporter, and he saw a need for several things. He saw a need for emergency evacuations of people that are destitute or invalid or do not have the ability to get out of harm's way, right in the hot zone. Mm-hmm. He also saw a need for training of the Ukrainian military. Before Andy decided to sign this endeavor, Mozart Group, a lot of the Ukrainian forces that were going the front line, there was an existential threat, and still is. They were going to the front line with minimal training, if any at all, maybe a few days, sometimes not even any training whatsoever. So he saw a need of, we need to start training these guys, how to basically use a weapon, how to move, how to apply a tourniquet, the basics. So our lines of effort are twofold. They are the emergency evacuations and humanitarian aid, mm-hmm. Which entails going into the hot zone. Right now we have several teams going in and out of the I can't say exactly where, but it's where the fighting's the fiercest right now. So mm-hmm. they're under indirect fire every single day, driving in, getting out civilians, elderly or invalids who cannot evacuate themselves. Mm-hmm. And also delivering humanitarian aid on behalf of several other humanitarian organizations, because we are going in there. That's effort one. Effort two is the training piece, and I'm director of training. So right. We started out with small units that would ask for training. We worked our way all the way up to brigades. The National Guard were heavily involved with training their National Guard, which is a paramilitary force full-time. Mm-hmm. Also some of their other special units and their regular Army units and several others. Mm-hmm. So our program instruction goes from 5 days up to several weeks. And one of the biggest things that is different about this and other training endeavors I did in Special Forces is this immediate impact. The folks we are training go into the fight the next day. Mm-hmm. There's not, hey, they're going home on block leave. It's, we finish training at 2100 at night. The next day, they're on buses or trains to the front line. So it's very humbling. Mm-hmm. The other piece of that too, at least for me personally, is the formula for developing new soldiers is usually there's a breakdown period and a build-up period. We don't have time for a breakdown build-up period. Mm-hmm. We have to leave them with the basic skills to survive, as well as the mentality, the positive mentality that, hey, they can succeed with a minimal amount of training. So the example I always give, the first week I was training, there was a young man, obviously highly intelligent, who was having trouble just basically manipulating his weapon. Well, it turns out this guy was a PhD geologist who had given up a lucrative career in the United States to come back and fight for Ukraine. He had 1 week of training, and he was having problems with his weapon. We put him aside, gave him extra training. But, my initial instinct was to be a little bit irritated. Oh, my gosh, why can't this guy get this? But there's no way I could do that. It was very humbling for me to see somebody give up their life. He could have stayed in the United States.
Yes.
But it's two of the things we do.
Yes. I want to talk about the humanitarian effort. As we talk to the kitchen table discussions daily, both here in the United States and then overseas, what can you share with your audience about the humanitarian effort? And can you give us a picture into what happens daily in the humanitarian effort?
Well, it's a hodgepodge. There's a lot of different organizations in there helping. As far as us, it involves 7 days a week, going into the hot zone, bringing in whether it's medical supplies, foodstuffs, cooking oil, or school supplies to distribution centers. A lot of times those distribution centers end up being the center of town or the fire department. We had some guys that were at the fire department yesterday, coming under indirect fire. They were out there distributing supplies to the civilian population. And every few minutes they had to run undercover because of the indirect fire. So you have these mainly women and children that are on this constant threat, trying to live. And we go in there and try to help them, but it's a daily case of survival. Even the folks that are not immediately on the front line, the civilians who are not on the front line, they're living day to day. I mean, you think about it this way: if you're in Kyiv, the main city, the capital, you're a 10-year-old child. You have not been in a physical school since last February. You throw in COVID, and they might not have been in school in 1 or 2 years. All their schooling's online. The internet goes out. Nowadays, it's going out sometimes over half the day, as well as electricity. So they're trying to study online with a teacher whose internet's going out, plus with the threat of indirect fire, missiles. So it's the trauma these kids are going through, and their parents who feel helpless, is indescribable and completely unnecessary.
Well, talk to me about that. Because I looked at the Newsweek article, I looked at the Dallas Morning Times article, I looked at the Legion articles. So I've been listening to everything that you guys are doing at the Mozart Group. Talk to me about the orphans. Talk to me about the families that have been separated. What's that reality?
Well, the reality, I mean, obviously it has happened. There's the separation within Ukraine, especially with fathers and families, and the father's on the front line. The families might be further west in Ukraine, or they might be outside of the country. Sporadic communications. Everybody relies on cell phones there, but it constantly goes down. As far as the orphans, there's a huge orphan problem. There's a lot of kids who have lost their family members, lost their parents, and Ukraine is a very traditional society when it comes to families. So it's not just the mother, the father, the son, and the daughter. There's the grandparents. There is the cousins, and it's all a team effort for raising families. It's very refreshing, by the way, but it's also heartbreaking now because these extended families are broken apart, and you have kids that are in a lot of ways raising themselves.
And that's exactly it. So talk to me about the fact that these kids are raising themselves. How are they getting their food? How are they getting the food supplies? How are they able to keep communication through cell phones because of everything that's happening all around? Talk to me about the logistics of what that looks like, and how are you guys getting food and that food supply to the necessity areas that are in desperate need of that right now?
Well, so we coordinate with other non-governmental organizations, especially the ones that might not have the ability to go into the hot zones. One of the things that's different about Mozart Group is we have personnel who are trained to, throughout the years, either the military, police, medical, who've been in and out of conflict zones. So they're used to operating there, used to managing risk and knowing when, hey, maybe it's too dangerous. Okay, now for this brief window, it is safe to go in there. So there'll be main logistics hubs. I'll give an example, Dnipro, which is a major city in the eastern part of Ukraine. Go to these logistics hubs, coordinate with these NGOs, pick up supplies every day on our way to certain locations. We'll coordinate ahead of time. We always have to be careful about not giving away too much because of operational security, but we'll try to coordinate as much as we can ahead of time, balancing risk. And we'll have these distribution centers. Like I said, a lot of times they're fire departments or police departments to give out aid to either individual families, or it might be an orphanage or a temporary refugee camp, something like that. So that's how we're getting those supplies to the people in need, the children. And of course, the centers back in Kyiv and further west you go too. And what was your second question?
Well, my second question really is this: how you're getting it to them in regards to, and you talked about the cell phone towers, and you talked about just being able to communicate, and that communication continues to be cut off. So what are other methods that you guys are able to communicate with people on the ground?
Yeah, satellite phones, iridium phones, also just contingency plans. We have to go back old school before there were cell phones. We will meet you if we cannot contact you by phone. We'll meet you at this location at this time tomorrow. That doesn't work, then this alternate place we'll meet. So you have to come up with redundant communications repeatedly. We rely sometimes on Starlink, Elon Musk's satellite system. It's worth its weight in gold, but that can be a little bit haphazard too. Sometimes it gets cut off. So it's really just a hodgepodge way of communicating. It's not foolproof. And sometimes we lose communications with the people we're trying to help. There's some nail biting time of, oh my gosh, I hope these people are okay, till they come back up, or we go out there and physically see them. So, yeah.
One thing that your CEO was quoted in an interview I listened to, he talked about the aspect of being mice in a maze of the work over there. Can you speak to that? And just what are you've been serving for so long, 33 years. But what is it from a personal standpoint, as a father, as a husband, what does it feel like to you in that space, setting yourself aside from the military and the public service piece, when you see everything happening? Is that a good way to depict as he described it?
Very much so, because it's very personal. All these other conflicts that we've been involved in, myself and the other Mozart Group employees, they're personal, they affect us, but this one seems so much different. This is my second time in Ukraine. I was here for several years ago doing a study on behalf of the U.S. government on the Russians and their way of war, and I fell in love with the country. It's a beautiful, beautiful country, salt of the earth people, very traditional. I loved it. Traveled all over the country extensively. So now when I'm there now, I just see the complete futility, how much this war is so unnecessary. And I'm seeing people that I trained or knew from years ago that are wounded or killed, or they're worried, at a minimum, they're worried about their families and trying to get them out there or into a safe place. So it's very, 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 very personal. And in previous wars, sometimes there's a detachment. You go, okay, this is war. I'm a soldier. This is what I do. There's going to be tragedies, going to be casualties. This war right here, the civilian, unlike any war we faced since probably the Korean War, the civilian populace is under constant threat, under constant danger. And then we're there living with them side by side. It hurts. I mean, I guess that's the best way to put it. And it motivates you also to want to help. I mean, we work seven days a week. There's no day off. The only time the work stops is when you lay your head down.
Right.
I mean, I literally have to put my phone on airplane mode at night to get any sleep, or the work would just continue through the night. So
Mhm.
to answer the question, like mice in a maze, absolutely. You're pinging from crisis to crisis, even though you try and plan. But it's so chaotic and random, and you want to help everybody, but you got to prioritize. So that is that mouse in a maze, looking for the next priority to help, person to help.
Well, let me ask you this. You wanted me to talk about or highlight taskforcesunflower.org.
Yeah.
And I have that at the bottom of the screen. Talk to me about that.
Yeah, so Task Force Sunflower is a 501c3 that we have set up as an umbrella organization for us to help facilitate humanitarian aid coming in, donations. So it's the best venue for people to help out. Mm-hmm. Mozart Group operates on donations strictly. We don't have government contracts. That's how we started out, and that's the model we've continued to operate. But we require funding to do this. Either, like I said, either for the humanitarian aid or just the logistics. The wear and tear alone on the vehicles. I mean, vehicles last, if you're lucky, a few weeks there without needing significant maintenance. The roads are horrendous. It's beyond potholes, and the places we're going are extremely, they're not, a lot of places not built for vehicles. So Task Force Sunflower is the vehicle so that we can accept donations and get them as quick as possible to where they're needed, whether it's humanitarian aid or the training, or, for example, first aid training, which we give to a lot of different organizations.
One thing I noticed with your bio was the long-term support you gave to the special operations survivors. And immediately I thought of the on-the-ground work that you personally are doing with the Mozart Group for the families, for the children, for the orphans. What do you see with the long-term support within the Mozart Group, and then for you personally as well?
Well, it's funny. I went over there as a volunteer last July, and I was only going to stay a month or two. I ended up staying until just a few weeks ago, and I'm going back in January. So it became very personal to me. So long term, I'm over there until the end. Whatever that looks like. I'm hoping Ukrainian victory. As far as for our organization and helping out, we're growing. We're continually growing. What I mean by that, we're getting more people, we're getting more vehicles, but our mission is also increasing. Whether it's more and more of the humanitarian aid and the evacuation, especially as the fighting increases and as the winter months come on. The fighting is hard enough. It's already hard enough in a conflict zone. You add in the aspects of winter, the lack of electricity, heating fuel, foodstuffs, cold weather gear for the families. It's just not there. So our need for funds increases too, to be able to get these supplies to them. So long term, I just see our mission increasing as well. Also as well as the training. As more and more units come back from the fight or going into the fight, they need training. They want training. So we are helping out with that. You're asking long term. One of the things I see long term, unfortunately, for Ukraine is a serious mental health crisis, from the adults down to the children, especially the children. I mean, you think about what's happened in the U.S. with our children, the lack of in-person schooling, the lockdowns, the lack of social interaction.
Yes, that's
happening over there too. But there's also the threat of your parents dying, or you personally under threat of physical harm. So the mental trauma is something that's not been talked about. They're going to be dealing with for decades, long term.
Let me also ask you about the elderly care. And some of the articles I was reading, they were talking about the elderly who were not going to leave, not come to America, not go to Poland. What does that look like for the elderly?
It's tragic. They want to stay in their homes. I mean, I definitely get it. When my mom was in her final months, she wanted to stay in her home. She didn't want to go anywhere, and I fully understand. I don't blame her. So it looks like, especially for the elderly in the East, where most of the fighting is taking place, They want to stay in their homes, but a lot of times it becomes untenable. The interesting thing about war is that a lot of times it's not like conflict, like every village is under constant attack and there's constant fighting and artillery and soldiers shooting against soldiers. It can be very isolated. One village can look like World War I rubble, and the next village hasn't been touched or barely touched. So it's very unpredictable, especially for the elderly if they're debating whether or not to leave. So I just see a crisis with the elderly as the war continues. A lot of the services, the infrastructure for taking care of the social network or services network is just not there anymore. The elderly are not getting medicine. They're not getting the interaction. They're already technologically challenged. They might not have a cell phone. So we also get calls sometimes for, I would call it health and welfare checks. Hey, can you go check on our grandmother at this location? So long term, I see it is getting progressively worse until there's some infrastructure that comes back in to provide these long-term care.
What do you think about the infrastructure for the long-term care? Do you see a timeline to that with?
Well, I will tell you this much: the Ukrainian people, what heartens me and gives me hope in Ukraine is the people. Wars or won or lost is really two main things: logistics and will of the people. And the Ukrainian people, they are buckling down. They understand the sacrifices they're having to make. So, I see long term. I'll give an example of how resilient they are, and this plays into how I think infrastructure will repair itself. There's a park I run in every day in Kyiv called Shevchenko Park. It was hit by rockets. It hit a playground, 8 o'clock in the morning. Fortunately, there were no kids there. Right. Within 2.5 weeks, you would not have known there was a rocket attack. They filled in the holes. They replaced the playground equipment, and kids were back there playing. I couldn't believe it. You see that nationwide with when there's artillery strikes or any damage. The people, the government, they immediately move in, NGOs, and try and repair and make it back to the way it was. So I see that happening with the long term, with the infrastructure, with the social service. I see that happening too, but it's just going to take time. It's going to take resources. And the other thing too is there's a balance. When they're under indirect fire, you can't really start those services back up until it's safe.
Right. So, right. And what kind of resources? You had mentioned it's all privately funded. Yeah. And so what other resources can you say to my audience, we need help with this. We need help with Christmas gifts for the kids. We need help with more food here. We need help with, if you have time to volunteer, if you're retired military, we would love your help. What are some big spaces that are gaps that really need to be filled in with the Mozart Group?
Well, I would say first the resources to be able to continue what we're doing. To be able to get the humanitarian aid. A lot of the actual humanitarian aid is not a problem of the amount that's in country. It's the logistics of getting to the people who need it. There is a constant. If you go to the border between Poland and Ukraine, when I crossed it, there's a 10-kilometer line of semi trucks trying to get into Ukraine. Now it's not all humanitarian aid, but there's a lot of it. To give Ukraine's about roughly the size of Texas. Okay. So to get from the western borders with the aid's coming in, because it's not coming in by ship because of the blockades, to the front line or where the people are the most need. I mean, it's a 2-day journey easily over horrible roads. And then there's the distribution. It's very ad hoc. So the biggest thing, aid is the logistics piece. And that means for organizations like the Mozart Group, being able to have vans that are not constantly breaking down to be able to get the aid to them, to being able to funds to be able to pay for gas to be able to get these resources there, to be able to buy basic radios or cell phones to communicate, or to hand out to local officials for example, fire department to be able to communicate, and if they have an emergency need, like, we don't need more foodstuffs, we need more baby formula or something like that. And you're coming from Dnipro. So that's probably the the main thing that Mozart Group needs is those resources to be able to help. As far as the volunteering, we're always looking for folks with military experience, medical experience. You can go to the mozartgroup.com and way to help or recruit. It's a pretty quick process to fill out an application. But we're always looking for folks with background as well as the willingness to serve. The one thing I want to stress is we are unarmed. We are not going in there looking to fight or get our gun on. We're there to help. So the folks we're looking to help, they need to have realize that going in, and it's not about the fight. It's about helping the people that are in dire circumstances, or helping the people that are in the fight.
One thing I wanted to share with our audience this morning, I was looking through your Twitter feed, and I'm going to add it to the stream, and I'm going to play it. It is the Mozart Group. We've rescued people, animals, and now we're rescuing Christmas for a family. Grandma's presents will be delivered, and I want to play this for our audience.
Family members. So we are going to grab these boxes and send them to the family member. To her kids, some presents from grandmother. So one of the local residents who lives next to the crossing asked us to assist her with the delivery of some parcels for her family members. So we are going to grab these boxes and send them to the family member. To her kids, some presents from grandmother.
And as I was looking at that this morning, I couldn't help but think, we are all cozy here in the United States of America, and we have everything that we need and more. And we still go. And I always say, what are you grateful for? Usually at the end or at the beginning of every podcast. And I sat there and looked at that, and I thought, you know what? This is a wake-up call to all of us. So what can we do, seeing that? Is there a specific way what we can do to bring Christmas to these people here in the Ukraine through the Mozart Group? Are there any ways basically saying gifts or something along those lines?
Yeah, I would basically say, like I was saying, I would go to Task Force Sunflower, the website, and take a look at where you can provide specific donations. There are also a lot of other organizations out there that are providing humanitarian assistance, Doctors Without Borders,
right.
UN, HCR, several others. But for us, it's, those specific donations will help the most for us to be able to help them. As far as bringing over, sending over actual supplies, like I was saying, the supplies are coming in. It's just that logjam getting them all the way from one side of Texas all the way to the east part on road systems that are just that are in extreme disrepair. Yeah. So yeah, but it is very heartening to be able to help out families like that, especially this time of year. There's still hope in the air, and that's one of the things I do want to stress. As I said before, Ukraine is a very traditional country. Majority of the population is Orthodox Christian. They have strong faith. They believe in God, and they believe in their cause. They believe their country, their people are doing the right thing. They're trying to. They want what we have in the West, in the United States. They want the freedoms. They want the lack of corruption. All those things we take for granted is what they want and what they're fighting for.
Yes.
And you hit on something that's very personal to me. Being over there and not seeing the divisions that I see in the United States, it's refreshing. Everybody's very focused on one thing. That's the existential threat. Yes. It's funny when you talk to Ukrainian, even someone that's not in the heat of everything, they're still having to deal with the power outages and the lack of electricity and heat. And they don't really complain. They'll say something about it, but then there's always the caveat of, hey, this is the price we have to pay for freedom. Mm-hmm. So that's the one thing that I want your listeners to understand. This is not just about one country's aggression against the other. It's about one country that that wants to be like the United States, respects us, and wants that democracy, that, you know, the freedom to educate their kids as they see fit, and to do it safely, you know, without under duress. So that's the heartening part, seeing how cohesive the Ukrainian society is. Matter of fact, it's become even stronger since the war started.
I'm glad that you shared that, because I really think that the American people really need a wake-up call in a lot of different ways. And I'm grateful that you shared that. And I'm speaking to me too. I'm not just speaking to you. I'm speaking to me. The American people, we've gotten so complacent. And in many ways, we've lost our spirit. But yet, there are people like you, there are people like my husband, there are people like our neighbors who introduced us. There are people who are wanting to serve, wanting to be on the front lines, wanting to engage and make a difference. And be reminded of what that flag really stands for. Be reminded of the service that my grandfather, my husband, you, and all of those who are wanting to serve, whether it's in a humanitarian effort or whether it is here in the United States, wanting to make that bigger difference. And, you know, I'm so grateful that you are bringing this to the attention of my audience. And I just got notified that we have frozen. So we may be interrupted because of the platforms I'm running this on, but we're going to continue through and end this amazing interview as we head into our weekend. On a final note, Erik, being here at Common Sense America, what I would love more than anything is for you to give updates as you can, as you head back over. When will you be going back over, and how long will you be there? And then how could you facilitate some updates for us that we can keep the audience engaged?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going over after the beginning of the new year. So I always can come back on,
Okay.
you know, every couple of weeks, as long as I have connectivity. That's the only long pole in the tent. The connectivity can be a little bit sporadic at best. But yeah, I have no problem myself or one of the guys I work with come on every couple of weeks and just to give a quick update, even if it's a 5-minute, whether it's live or something I tape. Absolutely, I'd love to do that. I enjoy keeping folks informed back home, because you know how it goes. When something's on the front page of the news, it eventually starts to fall off, even if something tragic like this. So it's good to keep things in people updated that there is still war going on. There's still people in harm's way, and there's still people in need. So yeah, absolutely, I'd love to.
Oh, fabulous. Erik Kramer, the Director of Training for the Mozart Group. He has been serving our nation for more than 33 years of military and government service, and also in the private sector. I'm grateful for what you're doing. Thank you to the Mozart Group. Thank you for your service. And I look forward to bringing you back on. We will do some 5-minute updates. We can do some pre-records, but I would love to just stay in touch with what is happening and where we can best facilitate helping those orphans and making Christmas better for them if possible. Thank you for describing it as the great state of Texas, but without really good roads for them to get through. But we will be praying most importantly. So I'm grateful for your service. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
Have a wonderful weekend, sir. Bye-bye.
You too.
For all of those who are tuning in, this is Common Sense America. I am Eden Hill. I do want to apologize if there was any technical issues. We are on many different streams, from Facebook to LinkedIn to YouTube and also Twitter. And we were talking about a very powerful subject that is happening in and around the world. And so it was very possible that we may have had some interference this morning. But on that note, I'm grateful for your support. I'm grateful that we were able to have the Mozart Group on Common Sense America here this morning. It is 9:40 a.m. Eastern Time. It is Friday, December the 9th. We're going to take a quick break and we will be right back. Thank you for joining today. And welcome back. This is Common Sense America. I am That's going to be, our weekend's going to be filled with so much fun and holiday fare. And if you are checking your list and checking it twice, make sure you get those book holiday stuffers I've been recommending to you. Ever Vigilant, Leadership and Legacy of the CACI Chairman. It is a phenomenal read, especially if you live in the DC Beltway area or in New York City specifically. If you are an entrepreneur, if you are a business person, if you are looking for additional leadership skills, pick up Ever Vigilant by Dr. J. Philip London. You do not want to miss this. It's a great stocking stuffer for your young graduate, for your husband, for your wife, for those who are in leadership, pick it up. Also, if you're looking for a devotional that is very much focused on faith during the Christmas holiday, and then also through the year, pick up His Child by Marcy Jean Friesner and also S.A. Moore. Another great stocking stuffer for the holiday season. 2 books I highly recommend. Book number 3, The Christmas Mitzvah, a great kids read by Jeff Gottsfeld, Gottsfeld. Go to Amazon.com and pick up The Christmas Mitzvah, a beautiful, beautiful children's story. Also, Matt Taveras, who is a friend of the show as well as Jeff Gottsfeld. Matt Taveras has written Red and Lulu, and also Dasher, 2 great kids stories. Pick it up. Not stocking stuffers. They are beautifully written books and beautifully designed books by Matt Taveras and also Jeff Gottsfeld, but they're not stocking stuffers. They are definitely gifts underneath the tree for your children this holiday season. Matt and Jeff are both friends to the show. Matt Taveras will be joining us in the new year with his new books coming out in February and later in the year. He has confirmed he will be able to join us, and I'm grateful for his participation here at Common Sense America. Also, Jeff Gottsfeld, who is a friend to the show, has been on to talk about veterans, to talk about 21 Steps, a beautifully, beautifully written book, and also The Art by Matt Taveras. And if you have had not a chance to get 21 Steps, I actually have copies, but I would love if you went to Amazon and supported Jeff Gottsfeld and bought 21 Steps. It's not a Christmas book, but it is a great book, and it talks about the tomb of the unknown soldier. The reason why I'm bringing that up is we are here at Common Sense America, all things military, all things America, all things veterans, all things family. And so I want to make sure that our children, our next generation, still learn the very values of our American ways. That is our faith, our family, our country, the wars, 9/11, everything that has happened in our history. Are our children learning it in this new focused agenda in the schools? Perhaps not. And it is being talked about by a lot of our different governors, not necessarily this one, but many of our governors around the nation. So instill these powerful children's books into your home, into your Christmas, into your holiday season, and make sure you go to Amazon.com and pick them up. Jeff Gottsfeld and Matt Taveras, Tavares, Matt Taveras. Dasher, Red and Lulu, Hoops, many, many more. He's written about our amazing sports heroes and everything in between. And also the Christmas mitzvah. You don't want to miss that one either. So as we head into the weekend, you know what? I want to get you guys excited about the Christmas holiday. I have been reading devotions. I've been getting up in the morning, listening to Christmas music, listening to praise and worship music, and just really wanting to bring the Christmas spirit to your homes. And you know what? Sometimes the holidays are really hard. And I'm not gonna lie. You know, they are difficult. You may have lost loved ones during the holiday season. You may be going through a health scare this holiday season, or you may just, how am I going to put gifts underneath the tree for my kids? Or how am I going to be able to feed my family during the holiday because the prices have gone up? Well, I want to encourage you. At the end of the day, if you are needing an extra hand, don't be embarrassed to ask somebody. I know we live in a culture where what are the Joneses doing? But in actuality, we need to be thinking of others and not of ourselves. I'm speaking to me, and I'm speaking to you. I'm not going to preach, and I'm not going to rant. I'm just being honest with you. And it's not just the holiday season. That's why I've been doing so many different features of the seasons of giving back here at Common Sense America, because there are children all over this nation, whether it's here in North Carolina or whether it's in New York City, who want an education and can't afford it. So that's why we're bringing to the show on Monday Futures in Education. They are a powerful group in Brooklyn and in Queens. And they are going to be coming to the show on Monday, along with American Humane, talking about our veteran service dogs as well. So as we head into the holiday season, I want us to stay focused on seasons of giving back. The Bowery Mission also, and in our local area, women's health centers, those who are helping women, the Crystal Coast Women's Center as well. There are so many different opportunities. Salt and Light Academy. And by the way, save the date. A week from today, Salt and Light Academy here in Swansboro, North Carolina, December the 16th at 6:15 p.m. will be hosting their Christmas Spectacular. Pictures with Santa, a Christmas choir, a Christmas performance, a book signing by Marcy Friesner, the author of His Child, the co-author of His Child, will be there. You don't want to miss. And just add it to your list. I know there are so many different things, and we're trying to keep up, and we're trying to get through this holiday season. But if that's one thing you can add to your list, you don't want to miss this very special event. As we just have a few minutes left in the show, tomorrow is the big Army-Navy game. It is one of my favorite football games throughout the whole year. If I watch anything, it's Army-Navy. Thanks to all of my Naval Academy friends back when we were in college years ago, not going to date it. And I had the opportunity to go to almost all the Navy games during that time period, and then go to the official Army-Navy game. And it is something that is very near and dear to my heart. Also, along with the Blue Angels and just their amazing performances in and around the nation, and just instilling that patriotism. And that's what the Army-Navy game does. It is just an amazing time for our nation to come together to celebrate our services. And I'm so excited about tomorrow's game. Now, we are a house divided. My husband is Army, and I'm a very proud veteran spouse. But on this day, on Saturday, the Saturday for the Army-Navy game, our house is a house divided. So I look forward to celebrating the Army-Navy football game. I look forward to celebrating our services. I look forward to celebrating our next generation of leaders. Who you see on the field are the next generation of leaders. We need to be supporting them. We need to be praying for them. And we need to be surrounding them with just our encouragement and our leadership. And the flag up there is what they are fighting for. But tomorrow, when you go and you watch on, I think it's on CBS, just think about, and I think it's going to be happening in Philadelphia. I think it's in my parents, literally their backyard. tomorrow. But, just be proud of one's country. You heard Erik Kramer talk about how the Ukraine wants to be like America. That's something that we need to be proud of, that we need to be so proud to stand and say, I'm an American. I'm an American. And so get your Navy colors on or get your Army colors on, because tomorrow's going to be a big game. There was a lot that happened last night, and I'm not talking about Twitter today. I know everybody else is, so we're not going to talk about that. And the vote on the Marriage Act went through last night, and there's a list of members of Congress who did vote for it and then who renounced their vote. There's a lot that's going to be happening in our nation and in our nation's capital through the lame duck Congress and as we head into 2023. But if there's one thing I can say to encourage you in this time of Advent, as we head into the third week of Advent, if I can encourage you as we head into 2023, everybody is very concerned about what's ahead. But if there's one thing I can say, get your coffee first thing in the morning and sit with Jesus. Just be still. Even in the chaos of our nation's backyard, even in the chaos of our homes, grab that time of peace, that time of hope, and that time of joy, because we all need it. We all need to be filling our cups so we can give. We all need to be filling our cups so we can take care of ourselves and our families. On that note, enjoy your weekend. Get ready for next week. Power-packed week with all new faces. And get ready, because we have a great Christmas season ahead. It may just be a couple weeks left, but look around, be grateful, be thankful for what you have. Be thankful for the roof over your head, the clothes on your back, the food that goes into your mouth daily. Be grateful for your family, your friends, your community. Be grateful that you live in a country that is free. And think about giving to organizations like the Mozart Group, like the Bowery Mission, like Futures in Education, like the Special Operations Association of America, like American Humane. So many out there, like Salt and Light Academy. There's a lot to be thankful for and a lot of places that need us to be involved, whether it is being present, whether it is praying, whether it is donating, whether it's giving of our time. But on that final note, with a little bit of time left, I'm going to ask you to do something for me. If you have not yet downloaded Great American Community app to your phones, do so. They have so many inspiring stories, 5 minutes or less. You get to hear the stories behind Great American Christmas. You also get to hear about Matthew West and his music that he created for Great American Community. And if you have not had a chance to see the new Candace Cameron Bure Christmas movie, A Christmas ... present, I highly recommend you do it. Take the time to sit down with your family and do it. It's all about God, what this season is about. It's all about family, and it's all about being present. On that note, God bless you all. Have a great weekend. And my apologies for any of the technical difficulties we've had. We've been doing really good, and this week and today it just happened. So with that, the little bumps in the road, you keep pushing forward and you keep looking up. And I'm speaking from firsthand. God bless you all, and we'll see you on Monday. Have a great weekend.